Oh, Nelly, we have a barn burner today. Welcome back to the Todd Durkin Impact Show. And I am fired up today. I got my workout in, yes. But today, we talking football. Yep, we're talking football and life and business and a lot more. I am so fired up today to have a man in the house who has an incredible story, who just created a documentary on Amazon Prime and many other streaming platforms. His name is Nick Alfieri. Nick Alfieri, and the movie documentary is called Unicorn Town. Unicorn Town. You're going to want to watch the documentary called Unicorn Town. Now, many of you know, if you've been following my story for any length of time, you know that part of my story is in my 20s after college is I went over and played professional football in Europe. And it was there in France that I hurt my back. And that back injury led me into eventually getting into fitness and strength and conditioning, opening my gym, Fitness Quest 10, and has been part of my story. Well, recently I was down in the Bahamas and I was doing a keynote talk for Nassau Financial Group, Nassau, Long Island, in Nassau, Bahamas. And one of the guys after the talk came up and said, "Hey, have you seen the movie Unicorn Town?" I said, "No, what is that about?" He said, "Well, you shared the story when you were playing professional football in France that you hurt your back. Well, this movie is about a young man who went from Georgetown to USC Film School to then going into European football and creating a documentary, not only on the team called the Unicorns, but on the lifestyle and what it takes to follow your dream, regardless of your age." I'm telling you what, this podcast episode today is going to inspire you. You're going to laugh. You're going to smile. And you may want to share this with your kids as well, because let me tell you what, this guy not only has a great education, but he actually learned some great wisdom to follow his intuition and gut, even when in higher academia, to follow his dreams and his passions. And now he has an incredible documentary out there, and I want y'all to watch it after you listen to this podcast. It's called Unicorn Town. Without further ado, we're going to actually go over here to Schwäbisch Hall, Germany, where Nick Alfieri is over in Germany right now. And it's about 7 o'clock at night. It's early here in the morning as I record this. It's late, getting late over there in Germany. But Nick has so graciously said, "TD, I would love to come on the show." So without further ado, my friend Nick Alfieri and Unicorn Town. All right, my friends, he is here. Nick Alfieri is in the house. Nick, welcome to the show.
Coach Durkin, thank you so much for having me. I've been super excited for this, looking forward to it for the past week. I've been watching videos of all of your stuff for all day, and it's late here in Germany. It's nighttime, but I'm all hyped up now and probably ready to go work
You're
out.
hyped up. Where in Germany are you right now?
I am in southern Germany, Schwäbisch Hall, small town. It's about an hour north of Stuttgart, if you know anything about Germany.
Sure.
So it's in the south. Small town, 40,000 people, super picturesque German town. It's like basically exactly what you think of when you think of a German fairy tale town.
Yeah.
And that's where I am right
now. It is. Well, I've been geeking out because, listen up, you guys got to follow Nick. Check this out. I told you a little bit in the beginning, in the intro, but I feel such an affinity toward what you're doing because for the last several years, you've been playing professional football in Germany. And if I'm not mistaken, you recently had an announcement too, correct?
That is correct. Yeah, I've been playing over here since I finished college football. So I've been over here for 7 years now. Yep. I initially thought I would be over here for 1 year. I thought, oh yeah, I'll go try out football in Germany. Ended up getting stuck here playing for 7 years. I recently announced that I am going to retire from playing. Kind of a hard decision, but it felt like the right time to step away. Oh. But yeah, so I'm entering sort of a new chapter of the post football life. But it's been an amazing experience playing football.
We're going to talk about that, but really, what I want to talk about is this Unicorn Town, this movie that you produced. It's a documentary, and I'm telling you all, and I've been saying for the last several weeks, watch Unicorn Town, watch Unicorn Town, watch Unicorn Town. If you have not yet watched Unicorn Town, it is on Amazon Prime. I want you to watch it. Now you're going to hear Nick's voice here, and then when you hear it on the movie, It's an incredible story. Now, check this out. Recently, I was over in the Bahamas, and I was speaking for a company called Nassau Financial Group. And part of my story is I was playing American football overseas in the 90s, 3 different cities: Berlin, Germany, the Berlin Rebels, Nick. And then I went to Amsterdam. I finished in France, where I hurt my back. My back injury got me into fitness. And the last 25 years, if you've been a trainer, coach, fit pro, this is where I've been hanging my hat. But when I shared the story about European football at the Nassau Financial Group keynote, someone came up after and said, "Hey, have you seen this movie called Unicorn Town? It sounds like it's part of what you need to watch. You would love it. It's kind of what you were sharing with your European football experience." I said, "Never heard of it." He's like, "Watch it." I watched it on the plane coming down to the Bahamas. So on the plane ride home, Nick, I watched Unicorn Town, and I'm like jumping up and down in the seats. People are like, "What? This guy's crazy. Like, what is going on?" I'm cheering. I know the teams. Like, you got the Braunschweig, Hamburg, Berlin, Frankfurt.
You know these teams.
I know the teams. And
Berlin Rebels are in there. I forgot about that.
I know the Berlin Rebels are in there. So, but here's the thing, and I love the movie, and I want everyone to watch the movie, because here's how it starts, and then I'm going to turn it over to you. You're at Georgetown playing football. You get a degree from a great university. You get into #1 film school, USC, which I'm like, my son Brady, by the way, loves film. He's going to High Point University next fall, studying, media and film and entrepreneurship. And you leave USC because you accept a football opportunity in Germany. Now, I know they don't pay a lot in European football, but I want to hear the story of what made you leave USC a few months in to get your camera and say, "You know what? I'm taking a risk, and I'm going to go over here." What's your backstory? Bring me back to this time, because, man, I'm so fired up listening to it.
Yeah, Coach, you teed me up right there. You got me all hyped up, remembering everything again. Thanks for that. So, I grew up in a big football family in Portland, Oregon. One girl, 5 boys. Both my parents were athletes, so grew up playing football, loving football, but also loved filmmaking. I would always take my parents' video camera and make movies with my brothers in the backyard and around the neighborhood. Mm-hmm. So I was always really into filmmaking. But then, got into high school, and then that hobby kind of went by the wayside as sports became the focus, being a high school football player and then eventually a college football player. But in college, my passion for filmmaking sort of rekindled a little bit. I made a couple short films there with some of my Georgetown teammates. And I remember, man, I love this stuff. I forgot how much I love filmmaking, because of course I know I love playing football. I'm playing football every day. But so it was cool for me to get rekindled with the filmmaking there at Georgetown.
But what did you study at Georgetown? What was it you were studying?
I studied marketing.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, marketing. Mm-hmm.
And just so I know, you're not going to brag about it, but when I was doing my research on you, you were also the team captain, and there's a famous jersey, right? One of those legendary. How do you say his last name? Ekabachi.
Joe Ekabachi. Joe Ekabachi. Yeah,
sounds like a good jersey guy right there.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, and
there you go.
A legendary Georgetown football player, captain of the Georgetown football team. Yep. Universally loved, really smart guy. And he went and he after he graduated from Georgetown, he went and worked in the World Trade Center. And sadly, he was killed on September 11th. And instead of retiring his jersey number, they decided to keep his spirit alive by giving it to one player each year who sort of best embodies his spirit, the spirit of Joe Ekabachi. And so that was and still to this day is probably the biggest honor of my life, to be able to wear his jersey number and keep that alive. So yeah, that was that was an amazing thing. So,
how do you say it? Ekabachi?
Yeah, Joe Ekabachi.
Ekabachi.
Yeah.
I love that Georgetown does that. Doesn't retire the jersey, but actually pays it forward. So every year, number 35,
isn't that cool?
That spirit. That is really cool. Well, congrats on that honor, and it shows you the man who you are. Because going from Oregon all the way to Georgetown, in DC, that's quite a move. So tell me, then, after your football career, what happens?
Yeah. So I had a successful career at Georgetown. It's 1AA, and had a successful career. But I was just it would be a long shot for me to make it to the NFL. And I knew that. Of course, I dreamed of that, but I was a little bit realistic with it. And in my senior year at Georgetown, I applied to film school. I applied only to one film school. I said, if I'm going to film school, I'm going to the best film school, or I'm not going. Yeah. And so I only applied to USC, and I was like, I mean, there's no way I'd get in. And then I ended up getting in. And so that was an absolute, I guess, kind of a shock, but a surprise, or an exciting shock. But right around that same time, I started getting contacted by some teams in Europe. Yep. Like teams in Sweden, and I had no idea about football in Europe at all. I was like, a team from Sweden is offering me, I can play football over there and make a little money.
That's right.
Really? So I was really leaning into that, but then I decided, you know what? No, I can't pass up this film school opportunity. I'm done with football. Had a good run. Time for the filmmaking stuff. And then so I moved to Los Angeles in the fall to start the semester at USC. Yep. That was a big whole thing. Young 23-year-old guy moving to Los Angeles, feel like, all right, I'm starting this filmmaking thing. But it was super exciting. But this was the first time since, I'm 11 years old, 12 years old, that I'm not playing football in the fall. It's like September, October. I'm at USC as a grad student. I'm seeing the football team and I'm missing it like crazy. Just felt like there was something really missing. Not to say that I wasn't having a great time diving into the filmmaking world, but I was really missing football. And I sort of started to realize a couple months in that sort of the structure of film school was not exactly the right path for me that I need. I wanted to be a little more freedom, a little more, I don't know, rambunctious or whatever, run a gun and just kind of, I'm just going to figure it out.
Creative. Yeah.
And so, coincidentally, it was like the week that I was feeling like maybe I shouldn't be in film school, I got a Facebook message from a coach saying he's the coach for the Unicorns in Germany. I was like, this is fake. The Unicorns, the team in Germany. I'm like, yeah, right. Cool. And then so I read the message, did a little bit more research, learned, okay, this is actually legit. Sounds pretty weird and funky, but I'll check it out. I'll take the phone call. Spoke with a coach, Jordan Newman, who's in the documentary. Amazing guy. I'm still really close with him today. And he convinced me, hey, yeah, come on out to Germany. And so I decided, all right, I'm going to leave film school. And I'm going to play football, but I'm also going to make a documentary about football in Germany because I grew up in a football family and I had never heard or seen any content or heard about football in Germany. I mean, it really hadn't gotten so much exposure, and I was shocked that I hadn't heard about it. So I said, I'm going to make a documentary when I go over there and play. And I was so naive and uninformed, like when I went over there thinking or not knowing what it took to make a documentary.
Yep.
I just thought, oh yeah, I'll just film some stuff and put together a documentary. So landed in Schwabish Hall, played this.
Before you go there, I have a question. Yeah. Because this is an important thing for all you young men and women listening, and heck, anyone listening that's made big decisions in their life. On the outside, you got a Georgetown degree. Oh, he's going to be successful. Go to USC, #1 school. Oh man, he's everything's in line. This guy's got it going on. All your buddies are back on Wall Street making big money, and here you are saying, you know what? I'm going to essentially quit film school. I'm going to go play football. So y'all know. I don't know if it's still like this, but it was like back then it was like $1,000 a month, but we'll give you an apartment and a car to split amongst 4 other Americans and you can go do what you want. It's like, you're not getting rich.
I don't know if I got all that. I got 650 euros a month that first year.
Yeah. Exactly.
You were not getting rich. Yeah.
But what was it? Because there's a lot of young folks who are making big decisions and you got to follow the path. I got to go work for the bank, or I got to go work for this. And hey, my buddies are making, I remember at William Mary, hey, my guys were all making, $80, $90, $100,000 coming out of college. And here I am playing football and they're thinking of me like, oh, he's living the dream. And I'm thinking to them, oh, they're living the dream. And you're like, everyone else is living the dream, but you ultimately have to be, what was that? Did you have the same stuff going on in your head?
Yeah, I mean, of course, like exactly like you said, all of my friends from Georgetown football went to work on Wall Street, started making big money early on. I'm like, I'm going over here to film school, paying a lot of money, and am I figuring it out? It's just like you say, it always seems like the grass is always greener. So
right.
Everyone else has it figured out. Everyone else is on the right path. But I don't know. I was really, really lucky to have such good, supportive parents who never really like pushed me in any direction, or any of my siblings. And they're like, trust your instincts, trust your gut, what feels right for you. And that just like overwhelmingly felt like the right move for me. And also to tell my parents that, and just to have overwhelming support and be like, if you feel like this is right for you, go do it full speed, 100%. Don't half-ass it. Go do it then. And it just felt like the right move,
So you land in Germany. Tell me about that. You're like, what the heck?
So wild. I mean, I'd never been to Europe before. And that's a long, we had to fly. I mean, I traveled for about 24 hours straight, and ended up getting into Germany. And when you watch the movie, you'll see this house. It's the Ami house. The Ami is the nickname the Germans have for us Americans. The Ami house. Yeah. So we get there. It's like after traveling for 24 hours, we drive an hour in the dark from Stuttgart to Schwäbisch Hall, and we walk up this like gravel path in the forest to this, what I felt like an old abandoned house. And I walked in that house. The door was a piece of wood. You moved to the side and you walked in, and I was like, man, what did I get myself into?
What did I do leaving the #1 film school to come live in the Ami house?
And I remember my friend Rudy, who's in the documentary, the wide receiver, him and I were there at the same time, and we were looking at each other, and they're like, all right, pick a room. And we were just looking around at these rooms, and just spiders everywhere. And it's just this old house. And somehow we settled in there. We started to get used to living in Germany and all the different cultural differences and stuff, which were interesting and exciting, but kind of hard to get used to as well. And then we start practicing football and meeting our German teammates who are going to be our teammates. And the cool thing about, the interesting thing about football in Germany is that, at least in the German football league, the Americans are the professionals.
Correct. Yep.
And there's 6 of them on the team. The rest of the team, all the German guys, they're guys that have full-time jobs, and they're coming to football practice after work. And this is something that I learned when I got there, and it was fascinating.
The most crazy thing I remember playing, and you share it in the documentary, is this. It's halftime, big game. And it's like tied up at halftime. I see half the team outside the locker room smoking cigarettes. I'm like, what, coach? You're smoking cigs. They're like, welcome to Germany. I'm like, this isn't right. I can't imagine.
It's so crazy. And
I was cracking up when I was watching the documentary. And people are like, what is he watching? But it was so authentic and true, like what you were sharing. Did the German team know that when you were coming over as an American football player, that part of what you were doing was to create a documentary? Or did you not even know where it was going? You're like, I'm just going to film stuff and see what happens. Or did you have like a really crystallized vision of like, I'm going to create this awesome documentary?
I had no idea. That's what I said when I was so like naive. Like I came over, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna make a documentary, having never made a documentary, but I just filmed everything. And I told them when I came over, I said, hey, I'm leaving film school to come play over here. I do want to make a documentary about the team. And they said, yeah, sure. I don't think they had any expectations for it. They're like, yeah, you want to film and make a documentary? That's totally cool. And so they were really cool about it. But that whole first year, like I really had no idea what the story was. And it really took 2 years to complete the story. We kind of had to live it. What they say about like scripted filmmaking, the director is God. In documentary filmmaking, God is the director. So like I had to wait and see what happened to see the story before we could like really craft it and edit it. And so it took basically 2 years of filming. And then it also took me getting older and developing as a filmmaker to really edit the story together and piece it all together.
So as y'all watch the movie Unicorn Town, and Nick Alfieri produced the movie, pretty much did everything. He is the voice. You hear his voice now. He's the voice. But one thing I'm curious about is the movie's probably what, an hour and 10 minutes long, I think it is?
Yeah, it's 83 minutes, hour 23.
So here's the thing. And he just said it took 2 years.
Yeah.
Make sure you watch the movie to the very end, because just yesterday I shared with someone to watch the movie and they said, oh, it's too bad it ended the way it did. I said, did you watch the whole movie? They're like, well, you're going to kind of fade it out. I'm like, no. You need to watch the last 10 minutes of the movie, because it couldn't be scripted any better, because as you just said, God was directing it. Yeah. So it's unbelievable what happens in this movie. And the ending is epic, because I remember thinking, oh man, heartbreaking in what I thought was the end, heartbreaking. And then you couldn't have scripted it any better. And what happens in that movie, unbelievable.
That was, and that's the thing. We just kind of had to wait to see how it would play out. And part of it, they say you kind of need to catch lightning in a bottle with documentaries. And we got so lucky that this was the story and that it played out the way that it did. But it was so crazy making it while playing. I remember in that first German Bowl, I remember because I'd worked with a German cinematographer, because I could only film while I was not playing.
I was going to ask that. So I got a German cinematographer, Sven, awesome cinematographer. He filmed the games that I was playing in. And I remember being on the field in the German Bowl, lining up at linebacker, getting ready to try and stop an ISO, but looking around to the sideline to make sure my cinematographer was in a good spot to get a good shot for the documentary. So I love that. So you got two jobs at the same time. I don't know what's more important, but I got to make sure my cinematographer is in the exact thing. Because I'm going to come light this guy up on the ISO. I'm going to jar a ball loose. I'm going to scoop it up for a fumble recovery for a touchdown. And then my cinematographer better grab this thing on 4th and 1.
Better get that shot. But I remember thinking that and having that thought. And it's like I couldn't help it. Of course I was locked in the game, but I couldn't help it. I was like, these are my two passions. They're colliding. They're coming together. And I was trying to get a little bit of both of them.
Yeah. I was going to ask that, as far as all the footage that you got.
Yeah.
You have, it sounds like that's the answer, because I was wondering, do you have to get licensing fees from the different TV stations or the teams? Because you have a lot of great footage in there that you're in as an athlete, as a player.
Yeah.
How did you do that?
So we have all the sideline stuff and the camera stuff that I filmed or my cinematographer Sven filmed, and then we got the game footage from the league. They gave us access to the game stuff, so we could intercut from the TV angles and the sideline angles. So that was another thing of getting piecing together a documentary is such different styles of footage and so much footage to bring together and be like, all right, we have 100 hours of footage. Let's cut it down to 86 minutes.
Guys,
and so that was an interesting challenge.
Guys, you're all thinking, man, just tell us what the heck happened in the movie. Guys, I'm talking to Nick Alfieri, and he created the documentary Unicorn Town on this German football team called the Unicorns. And when you really study his story, I looked at him like, man, I saw so much of myself in what you were doing, Nick, not from the cinematographer side, but from the athlete side. And then I'm like, this guy's got a story, and this guy is going to do something special in life as a producer, director, filmmaker. And the story has an amazing, it captivates life, especially from a different culture in Germany, and how you connected with people. There's so many different side stories in there. But one of the questions I have for you, and just folks, just watch it on Amazon Prime. Make sure you watch Unicorn Town, and you'll love it. And you're like, oh, I just heard Nick on the Todd Durkin Impact show. But here's the thing: struggles. What were maybe 2 or 3 of the biggest roadblocks or struggles throughout the, I'll say, 2-year time frame that you were filming the documentary that you had to overcome to end up creating the documentary Unicorn Town?
That's a great question. I would say the big one that comes to my mind, and this happens early enough on in the documentary, so I'm not really spoiling it. I break my collarbone really early on, getting in that German football season, and it was absolutely devastating, horrible break, snapped in half, kind of freak accident. Snapped my collarbone in half, and with the German league, like we talked about, these are not big financial organizations. right? So for them, if their American import players get hurt, you got to send them home and get a new one. You can't afford to keep a guy around that's not playing. And so they ended up keeping me there, but that was a really difficult, for a little bit, kind of a dark time, and kind of a questioning everything that I was doing. Like, man, I left USC to come over here and play football. I got hurt. I can't even play. I can't even do what I came over here to do. But it's so crazy looking back on it, how pivotal that was, how important it was, both for the story of the documentary, because I think that I wouldn't have taken the documentary wouldn't have played out the way it did if I didn't have that injury. It was such a key pivotal point. And then also for me as a person outside of the documentary, just kind of learning about persevering through a hard time or through an injury, and kind of the mental toughness aspect of that you need to develop, and kind of see injuries or setbacks as part of your journey. And I feel like that was a really pivotal point for me.
Well, it was, because when you think about European football, folks, when you get hurt, you're out. They're shipping you out and they're getting another American in. You only got 6 of them. And I remember that same exact thing when I blew out my back in France. I couldn't fly home right away, but 6 weeks after I was able to actually sit upright and fly home, I was home. And it's interesting because I remember feeling your pain, because as you all know, when you're hurt, the hardest part about being hurt isn't the physical, it's the mental. You're ostracized from the team. Here you are, broken collarbone. You can't play. You're out most of the season. Without saying everything in the movie, watch the movie. Most of the season. But what happened is they kept you. Yeah. And for whatever reason, what a godsend that was. But that man Ziggy, that guy Ziggy, man.
Yeah, Ziggy.
That guy's got to be an iconic figure in your town now, not just as a football coach, manager, so to speak. He oversaw everything, right?
Yeah, he's a legend. He's an absolute legend. And it was so cool also because, growing up in the States, playing football in the States, it is such a job.
Yeah.
Once you get to the high school and college level, of course, we love playing it, and it's an amazing, but it is a job, and it's a little bit cutthroat. And to see his technique of coaching and his perspective on the game, and how you can approach it a little bit differently.
Yep.
He approached being a coach and a leader in such a unique way that was just really inspiring.
Yeah. Well, it seemed like he cared. He cared.
He cared about you as a person.
So much for everyone within the organization that the unicorn team was all about that you could see and feel, and you did a great job capturing the essence of the culture of the team, organization, and city. Everyone cared. And even what you showed to all the people drinking their beers, like the town and community coming in before, welcome them in, come, have some beers and make it a big family event. And it was all about family and having fun and food and festive. I mean, it's Germany and it's football, and you made it an event. What other struggles did you have? You had the broken collarbone, but from a production standpoint, was there anything behind the scenes that no one would know?
Absolutely. So there's that physical injury. Yep. And then the struggle of coming back from that and filming and getting all of the footage. But then once we had all the footage, piecing together the documentary and getting it to a point where it's finished. I mean, we made this thing for no money. It was a real low budget thing. And we were up against it the whole time. It felt like a fight the whole time. We were scratching and clawing just to keep it alive. I mean, I edited the whole thing on my laptop. And you see, I did the voiceovers in my childhood bedroom, throwing a blanket over my head, doing the voiceovers with a sock in front of me.
Are you serious?
It was really we really bootstrapped it together, which I'm pretty proud of now, because I'm proud of the product that we finished. But it's crazy, my mom's got a photo of me in my bedroom, with my little kid football trophies in the background. I got a blanket over my head doing a voiceover, and then the movie ends up being what it is, a movie that's streaming on platforms and stuff. And so but it was a struggle. It was an absolute struggle. And there were so many times where I felt like, man, this is not going anywhere. We had so many meetings with production companies and streamers who are like, oh, we love the movie. Yeah, we love it. Yeah, we'll help you get it across the finish line, or we'll release it on our platform, and then only to be turned down. And so many ups and downs. But I guess the thing that I took away from it is just you just got to be persistent. Like, I wanted it so bad. I wanted it so bad that I just wanted to finish it and I really wanted to prove it to myself. We could finish this movie and get it out there into the world. I didn't even care about the money aspect of it. Just get this out there so people can see it. And then I know in my heart, like, man, you fought through and you finished it. And it wasn't just me. I had a good team, a small team of some producers who helped as well. But that was quite a struggle, and something that I turned to a lot of lessons from.
How many times was it turned down?
Oof, man, we had
dozens.
I would say about 10. I would say about 10 times. Wow. And it was crazy. We'd have meetings with, we had a meeting with some platforms, and I'd have to wait around because I'd be in Germany, and we'd have to take the meetings on US time. So I have to stay up to, 2, 3 in the morning to be on Zoom and talk about the documentary. Yeah, are you guys interested in it? And then only to be, yeah, we really like it. We'll send you an email, and then, hey, no, we're going to pass. And so to have that happen a few times, but they said, one door closes, another one opens.
I love that story that you were bootstrapping it. So one of the struggles, no budget, right? So it's not like, oh, I don't have a big budget or I don't have excuses. Folks, when you watch the movie Unicorn Town, you're going to think there's a decent sized budget behind it, even though you could see that it's really real and authentic. It's cool to know. I'd love for you to share that picture sometime with your mom.
I know. I got to get you that photo.
The blanket over your head, and you're creating a sound booth, right?
Exactly.
So what platforms is it streaming on now? Because I saw it on an airplane, but Amazon, what else?
Yeah, it's on Amazon Prime streaming, and then it's on all of the major platforms now to like buy and rent. So it's on Apple TV, it's on Google Play, it's on Vudu, it's on Plex is one outside of the United States that it's on, and then now it's on airplanes, and this is a lot of people are seeing it on the airplane. This has been a really cool thing.
Yeah,
so you're stuck on an airplane.
When the gentleman said, "Hey, on the plane ride home from the Bahamas back to San Diego, watch." I'm like, I couldn't wait to watch it. And then, literally, Nick, the next day, I DM'd you on Instagram. I'm like,
that's amazing,
Nick, dude. I loved the movie. I could see the story behind the story because having walked through European football. But what you've created is just it's tell you what, I'm really, really happy and proud for you on that. What are the platforms saying? Like, what does an Amazon tell you? Do they give you feedback? Hey, like the movie's kicking butt, it's doing great, or they don't tell you at all, or it's not doing, like, what do they say?
We don't really, it's all done now through a distribution company. So it's like a third-party distribution company. So they report to them, and then they'll report to us, 6 months down the line or so. So as of right now, I don't really know like numbers and stuff, but the feedback that is seeping through to me has been really positive and quite fulfilling from the artistic point of view. And which is really what I really cared about is that, like, we made a movie that people like and people respond positive.
Well, when you follow Nick on Instagram, you get to see him over in Schwäbisch Hall, Germany. And let me tell you what, he's like a walking rock star right now. He like tourism has got to be up in Schwäbisch Hall, Germany. Like people I'm going to Schwäbisch Hall because of this movie called Unicorn Town. What's it like now walking on? Do people recognize you? Like, hey, that's the guy that produced that documentary?
Yeah. It's been really cool because it is such a small town, and so people do know me here and know some of the Unicorn people, and it was cool. We got to do basically the premiere in a movie theater in Schwäbisch Hall and invite the team and the organization. That was a really special night, and that was really cool. And I think I think that it brings some pride to the people of this small town because it's sort of a hidden gem. I mean, it's really a cool town, and so I think that people are pretty proud to have like a movie about their town now.
What's really cool is I always say live a life worth telling a story about what's your story. Yeah. You've taken your passions and love for football, took it overseas, despite conventional wisdom that said stay in school, get your master's degree in film, you just took your passion of taking football and your passion of filmmaking and said, I'm going to go all in on this, despite no money, no budget, not knowing where it was going to go. And you went all in, and you're worried about the cinematographer on the sideline on 4th and 1, trying to jack up an ISO. And you're combining that and trusting the wisdom of it's all going to work out. Right? I just love the story. And the cool thing is, the stories, to me, it's just getting started, right? Like it's who knows where it's going to go. You just announced your retirement from football. What, 7 years? 7 years?
Yeah, 7 years. So I'm 30 now. So I got an extra 7 years of football that I didn't think I was going to get, because I thought I was done with college. And so I was 7 extra years that were an amazing experience and kind of really changed the trajectory of my life, I think.
100%. Nick, it's funny when you say that, because I remember in my second year of playing football, I was in France. I went Berlin, Amsterdam, and then I was in France in the second year. No joke, before I got hurt, I was trying to figure out, how am I going to stay here for 5 to 10 years? I was like thinking about renting, like, okay, I'm going to get kayaks and paddle. Like I was thinking about the things I could do in the off season, because I loved it so much being over in Europe. I'm like, I love the lifestyle. You go to the market in the morning, you walk around, you take a nap. It's all about food and relaxing. And then you go practice at night. You get on a train when you can, you go tour around. I'm like, I'm going to stay here for a decade. And then I got hurt, and I was out.
yeah, but exactly what you say. I mean, just the lifestyle, hop on a train, go visit a city.
And you documented. You show all that. You show all that in the movie. So take me up to now. You just retired. You're loving Germany. What in your mind? What is next? If there's like, okay, I've got to now parlay my success and what I'm doing. Is it? Okay, I'm just going to keep promoting, Unicorn Town because it's got some legs to run on, or are you thinking of the next project?
So, I mean, of course, for sure, pushing Unicorn Town and trying to get as many eyeballs on that as possible, but also looking forward as well. I do YouTube. That's like one of my main things. I also do YouTube, kind of talk about what it's like to be an American in Germany. So this is a big part of what I do. But also, it's really exciting. Football is really, really kind of seems to be taking off right now in Germany. The NFL just played their first regular season game in Munich, in Munich, Germany, this past fall, and I went to it, and it was an incredible experience. And there's a new big professional European-wide league that has popped up that is really, really promoting the sport as well. So just being involved in some of these, I'm doing a lot of media stuff, football content, for some of these football teams, for the Unicorns, for some other teams, to just sort of stay involved in the game. So I've got that, but then I also now have, these are smaller projects. I got my eye out looking for the next story that I want to tell with a big documentary. I learned with Unicorn Town that I've got to be super passionate about a story that I take on for, a feature-length documentary or documentary series, which I was about Unicorn Town, and that's why I was able to kind of push through all the hardships of it. So I've got my eye out for a couple stories that I'd like to tell, but nothing concrete yet. But probably somewhere in the sports world.
With the opportunities that are coming now in Europe, is it more about promoting European football or German football, or is it more from the towns and communities that recognize by taking a story, you're able to enhance the visibility of a town like Schwäbisch Hall? Is it more football related opportunity, or is it more, I'll say, city based opportunity of like, hey, this guy's a great filmmaker, producer, let's bring him on to help tourism, so to speak?
There's sort of a little bit, I would say, like within Schwäbisch Hall, it's more of that. I would say like, hey, we're promoting football. We're also promoting this community in this town, which is a really special thing. And then there's also there's some other teams, in the bigger cities in this new league also that are more football focused, and you're promoting football and the game of football. So it's kind of nice. I get a little bit of both. I get to kind of dabble with a little bit of both, which is a fun thing.
So fast forward, if you're 30 years old, you're at a great time of your life with your career all ahead of you. You just created this awesome movie in Unicorn Town. Do you have a longer term vision of, like, obviously, you look up to I'll say Steven Spielberg's of the world and say, I want to be like that? Or is it, you know what, I'm going to create my own path. I don't know where it's going in 5 to 10 years, and I'm just going to keep listening.
Yeah. Growing up and going through film school, I was exactly like, I want to be like, the Steven Spielbergs and the Christopher Nolan and the Quentin Tarantino. I want to make these types of movies, these scripted movies. And I had no interest in documentary or nonfiction, non-scripted stuff. Right. But as everything has developed and played out, I do feel more inclined to kind of just, hey, I'm going to follow my instinct like I did before and kind of see where it takes me and see what I'm attracted to and where my passions are. And I'm kind of following that. So I think I'm allowing my path to unfold itself. So I don't exactly know. I don't know what it looks like exactly, but I'm a little excited for it.
I'll tell you, I've been reading this book called Slow Down to the Speed of Life, and it's all about getting in the flow state versus when you're trying to control everything, you get tight, and even your creation of what you put out content-wise, social media, you get a little too structured versus being in the flow, right? And I love that you're saying that of being in the flow state, because it allows you to create. Even watching your YouTubes and your Instagram now, you can see when you're walking around town and giving that, like, you're flowing in the now, which is cool.
Yeah, I like that a lot. That's a great. I got to read that book.
Yeah, great book. One of my mentors, Wayne Cotton, shared that with me. And by the way, he said, "Hey, Todd, this was a couple months ago. Hey, you're too mechanical. Well, in the flow state." I'm like, you're right. I was very structured in trying to, I'll say, manipulate some of the things I was trying to do versus being, and now it's a fine line, right? It's a fine line of being in the flow, so you can report and people can feel that. They can feel the energy behind it, even in the poignancy of your voice and your smile. So it's a fine line. It's kind of like in football, a quarterback that's in the zone, or in basketball, you see Phil Jackson, you're right, he's got that Zen-like approach. Question for you. If you were, like I told you, my son Brady is going to college to study this. If you were speaking to a Brady or a young, I'll say, creator, whether it's a YouTuber, someone that wants to get into cinematography, what would be some wisdom that you would offer your younger self who's going into college, or maybe, in their teens or early 20s? What are some lessons that you would share with a young creator to make sure they can continue to fulfill their gifts and passions?
Yeah, man, I would say, one, consume as much stuff that you're interested in as possible, and kind of find people who inspire you. That's what I did. And at first, when I first started doing some stuff, I was totally copying the people that I was inspired by, which I think that's okay when you're starting out.
Yep.
Like, you can copy them and emulate them, and slowly but surely you'll develop your own voice and style in any aspect of filmmaking or content creation. So I would say, as a younger person getting into it, find somebody that you emulate or admire, study them, and let their work help you find your voice in the way that you do something. I would definitely say that. And then I would say kind of that, to make sure you're following your passion. I always thought I was a little bit, I would say, stiff with my goals growing up with filmmaking, of I only want to make scripted movies that, like a Steven Spielberg movie. So don't be so stiff with your goals, but maybe be a little flexible and in the flow of like, well, maybe this isn't exactly what I want to do. I want to do filmmaking like this or content creation like this, but this style or with this little twist on it. So I would say be open to that, and don't lock yourself into this type of, I do it this type of way. That's what I would say.
Yeah, and I'd add something for you, because you're living, you probably don't even recognize it, is create content and don't be afraid to make mistakes, because you took a chance not even knowing what the end product was going to be. You weren't like going there like, I'm going to create this best-selling documentary. Like you said, I'm going to get my camera and I'm going to just capture as much content as possible, and I'm going to practice. I'm going to get out there and practice. And I think sometimes, especially now, all of us live in this perfectionism world, and we feel like it's got to be perfect. And here you are under a blanket in your childhood room, creating something that you're passionate about, that you would never know when you watch Unicorn Down. Now you're going to know when you're like, dude, Nick is that man, because and this is for everyone, not just the kids who are thinking about being content creators or cinematographers or, filmmakers, is practice.
Yeah, man, that's so good. And that just reminded me also what I would say for advice is like, me being so naive and not knowing how much was involved in making a documentary and just thinking, oh, I'm just going to make a documentary. And I just started. By the time that I realized how much work it was and how hard it was too late. I was already too deep in. I was like, well, I'm going to figure it out now. So just start. That's what I'd say. Just start. Don't worry about having everything lined up perfectly. And I'm getting it. It's never going to be the right time. Just start.
Yeah. And I'll add, go look for internships. Guys, go sometimes they're unpaid internships. Reach out to Nick like, hey, I'm a young content creator. Nick, I know you need some help on your next film. You never know. But I even in the coaching and fitness world, and having the opportunity early on to have mentors in this field and now to mentor other young fit pros is really cool. But I'm assuming even in that world that you live in, Nick, man, there's so much to learn. You got to take action, but the experience that you've had in, I'll just say, a decade of doing this, right? Of all the content creation that you're doing, and you continue to create content every single day. You're always putting stuff out. So, man, I want to say thank you. I so enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you, Coach.
Man,
me too. This was awesome. This was great. Thank you so much, Coach. I mean, this was really great. It was just fun to be able to do some of the stuff I've never even talked about. I never even told anybody that, hey, that's really how I made Unicorn Town. I did it in my bedroom. So you're the first one to know.
Well, but that's even makes it more special.
Yeah. I like that.
It makes it more special when you know the story, because you might watch it. And when you do watch it, now that you've known what Nick just shared, is you're going to think, man, this is just a first class. And it is a first-class production. There's a lot of money behind it. And here you're hearing it firsthand. He's in his childhood bedroom with a blanket over his head doing the voiceovers. And I love that it's your voiceover, because again, the clarity, you sound like you're in a darn sound booth with
it worked.
Right. And it is. What's one question I should be asking you that I'm not?
I would say what is kind of my mission with content creation right now, I would say.
Okay. What is
which
it?
Is it's not the only mission, but as of lately, it's been something that's been important to me, is to get other people, younger people, involved in football or in sports. I got so much out of playing football for 20 years. So of course the physical aspect of it, but so much in terms of development as a person and off the field and mentally. It's been so important to me to who I feel like I've become and the path that I'm on. And so I want to inspire other people to get involved in sports, get involved in football, check it out. I always say football, of course I'm biased, but it's the best sport in the world. It's the best team sport in the world. Everybody has to do your job. You got to trust the person next to you. And so I think football's for everybody, you need all types of bodies to play football. And so that's kind of something.
Amen. I've got a guy right now who I train who has some opportunities in many different leagues. Other than the NFL. And there's a lot of leagues popping up. And one of them is in European football. I'm like, go to Europe. I'm telling you. But they don't pay. Like, what? Like, it's all about the experience, the culture, getting a person. And so I told him, I said, watch Unicorn Town. And when you watch Unicorn Town, you're going to end up in Europe or some of the other leagues. Now, I'm not telling, you football players that if you got a chance in some of the leagues to not do that. But I'm telling you what, there's something special about European football. So when I reached out to Nick and I shared, hey, Nick, I'm Todd Durkin. I saw your movie. He's like, I've been watching your YouTube for years. So, did you say you had a couple questions for me? Or are you good to go?
Well, I got a couple questions for you, Coach. I gotta extract some wisdom from you. I gotta take advantage of this.
Fire away. We got about 10 minutes.
I just wrote down a couple things.
Yep.
All right. Let's see. Balancing everything. So your work is also, from the way I interpret it, is also your passion. You're completely passionate about what you're doing. and you would be doing that if money wasn't an object in the world, you would be doing that. How do you balance passion and work? Because this is somewhere I'm stepping into this, filmmaking has become my work, but it's also my passion. And how do you keep the balance of the love of it, but also the logistical aspect of the work?
Man, you're speaking like a mature man right there, like how you do it, right? You're trying to figure it out. It's the most difficult part because sometimes your passion can wane if you get burnt out or you get tired. And I think part of it is how you structure your time and habits. It all comes down to habits, because when you think about, I always ask when I'm coaching someone is, what are the top 3 to 5 gifts and skills you have? So if I love to speak and write, I love to coach. If I'm doing those things and I'm spending the majority of my time doing those things, my passion, my energy is going to be more on fire and it's going to be caught, right? People are going to be like, oh, it's real. Versus if I create a product that I don't completely believe in, but I'm like, hey, it's going to generate X amount of dollars and this is a good thing, but I'm not really behind it, then not only is it not going to do as well as it should, but I'm not going to be completely fulfilled with it. And it's just not going to perform the way that you want. So to me, this is an everlasting dance. It's a harmony, right? Life is a harmony. Sometimes you're happy and sometimes you're sad. Sometimes you're jamming and sometimes you're not. But ultimately, what it comes down to is your purpose and doing what you're designed to do. If you know you love filmmaking, you got to make sure that you're constantly creating content. I love to create content. It's one of the things I like, man, I would create content all day. If I could, not get paid a dime, I would create content. I love putting out. Why? Because I love conversations like this, Nick. This conversation with you, this would be the highlight of my day. I love when I get a DM from someone who, and I recently shared this on a podcast, who was in a really bad place mentally. He listened to a podcast episode that saved his life, according to him. To me, that's all I live for is TD. That word, I heard something, it triggered a thought, it got me back on track. So the word balance is tricky because we're never perfectly balanced, but it's this ever-flowing up and down. But it comes down to sometimes we have to recalibrate how we're spending our time, who we're spending our time with, where we're spending our time. I love the mountains, Nick. Just like you love Germany, you're creative. I love being in the mountains. I'm actually, as we record this, I'm getting ready to go to Montana where I'm spending more and more time. I love the mountains. I create in the mountains. I dream in the mountains. I think big in the mountains. I come back here to San Diego and I can go to work and do my thing. But you gotta have that flow again. You got to be in that flow state.
Awesome. Thank you, Coach. Thank you. I appreciate that. One other question I had. I remember thinking when I was 23, man, I'm an adult man now. I got it all figured out. And then now I'm 30 and I feel like that again. But then I look back at myself at 23. I'm like, you child, you didn't know anything. But I feel that again. Oh, I'm 30. I got it figured out. What is something from your perspective that maybe when you were my age that you've changed your mind about, or something that you just probably can't understand at age 30 or can't grasp at my age that I just am oblivious to? Or
Nick, I'm 51 and sometimes I still think I can't figure it out. So, and I'm serious.
Yeah.
I think there's times, listen, if you're a person of growth mindset, which you are, I am, and many people listening in are, there's always another level.
Yeah.
And I learned this, and I don't know if you remember the name LaDainian Tomlinson. He was the MVP in 2006 of the NFL. I was training LT. And it didn't make sense to me at the time. I was a young trainer. I was about your age. Yeah. He just wins the NFL MVP. And he says to me, Todd, what's next? What's next? I don't feel the same drive and passion. I'm like, what? He just won the MVP of the league. It didn't make sense then. But what happened is for several years, we had been working to get to a level that he now created his best-selling, documentary and all these things. He got that. He got to the top. He's like, I got to have something else to motivate me, to keep me training at the level I want to. I didn't understand it then. But even now, heck, 23 years later, I understand that sometimes success can be lonely. Sometimes success, you reach your goals and you're like, what's next? what do I do next? And what I would say at 30 is, and you shared it earlier on about you just saying what is next, is it's the perpetual pursuit of your better on an everyday basis. And while I love to dream that what does my future self say in 20 years from now and where I'll be and that, what I love to say is, how do I use my God-given talents and gifts to continue to bless people at a level that is going to impact, hopefully for me, 10 million people in my lifetime. That's why I do this podcast. Is I'm hoping that through the proliferation of the podcast and all the shares and everything else, is that we get 10 million people that we can impact through Fitness Quest 10 and the gym and my coaching programs. So I guess what I would share with your 30-year-old self is, you keep being you and showing up as your best self as a man, as for me, a father and a husband, as a leader and a coach. And there's some days I feel like I failed. People are like, man, you're killing it. I'm like, some days I don't feel like I did kill it. But there's other days where I'm like, you know what? I did God's work today. And someone listened to this episode right here, Nick, and is inspired to go out and create content and maybe their documentary. And I'm like, you know what? That was like a servant-like purpose that we did the work. So I would say stay on course, continue to grow and evolve, and surround yourself with the people that you are. And I see it in the documentary. I see it on your social media. Is for you, man, there's going to be ups and there's going to be downs. But let me tell you what, when you reflect, it's all about who's in your life, not what's in your life. It's about the who's. And when you think about that, it always comes back to gratitude, and gratitude for who is in your life. For you, your girlfriend and your family, you got a great family, and all the people who are in your life. It's always about who is in your life.
Yeah. That's awesome, Coach. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Nick, thank you. I'm going to wrap it up with saying this. Guys, just make sure you go and watch Unicorn Town. And you heard Nick here first give you the behind the scenes of how it all came to fruition. And he shares it on Unicorn Town. And you realize that was just the first of hopefully what will be many documentaries or movies. And someday we're looking back like, oh my God, Nick Alfieri, he was on the Impact show, and he's going to be like, walking the red carpet and all this good stuff. Don't forget me, Nick. Don't forget me.
I won't, Coach. Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
God bless you. I can't wait to get over to Germany. I need to get back to Europe. I love Europe. I need to get over there and see you, give you a big old hug. And,
absolutely.
Man, maybe it'll be Oktoberfest. Maybe Oktoberfest.
It sounds good. Hey. Get over here. Brother. We'll link up, Coach. Awesome.
Keep Thank you so much. Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right. Have a good one.
Man, oh man, that just fires me up. Nick Alfieri, Unicorn Town. Check it out, whether it's Amazon Prime or any of those streaming platforms. So I'll put it in the show notes. Just follow him on Instagram. I promise you it's well worth your time. Nick Alfieri, a great job. Thank you. And one of the things I love that Nick said is he didn't have all the answers when he was creating this documentary. When you track his story from a team captain from Georgetown football over to USC Film School, to giving that up to go pursue a dream and go into the unknown. I related to so much of that, and I hope that speaks to you, whether you're in your early 20s, your early 50s, your 70s, whatever, that the constant perpetual pursuit of your better is what it's all about. And sometimes we don't always know the answer. We're trying to make big decisions and we don't know the answer, but our gut, our intuition is telling us to do something. And this young man, Nick Alfieri, I tell you what, you're going to be seeing some more incredible content from him in the years to come. I hope it's movies. I hope it's documentaries. But when it comes out, you can bet your bottom dollar that I'll be watching those things, because I love the heart and soul behind this guy. We need more content creators like Nick Alfieri. So please spread the word on this podcast. Please share this podcast. I think it's going to help a lot of people, and spread the gospel about Unicorn Town and what a great documentary it is. So go watch it. You can thank me later. And until next time, remember, you got to train hard. You got to eat right, live inspired, and go create impact.